When the ceasefire was reached, the children returned to schools and the school started to function again. It was all wrong, you know. People believed that it was all over. And they went back to their homes genuinely convinced, as it were. That's when it happened. Sukhum was surrounded, with no way in, either by road or by rail, or any other way. Only planes were still flying, and not very often. Because of the airport shelling, it was very dangerous. We were waiting at the airport, intending to fly to Sukhum. There was no other way in. They couldn't decide to take off because there was no communication link with Sukhum. The only message they received was to inform traffic control that there were strikes on the airport and they would not authorize our departure. At about 9 a.m., there were 3 planes standing, waiting to take off for Sukhum. And obviously a lot of people. The first plane, well, the first to take off, half of it, the back half, it was a Tu-154, was full of medical supplies and fuel for the people in Sukhum. There was no way to even get fuel to them. There was food too, and other things that needed to be flown in for them. The front half was packed with people. Some were standing. Anyway, there we sat, a lot of people, and at 5:30, a plane arrived from Sukhum, also a civilian aircraft. To this day, I remember the pilot, a Russian man. When the plane landed, he parked it up, opened the cockpit side window, looked out, and then he waved and smiled at us. From the look on his face, you would think he'd escaped from hell, which was precisely what he had done to rescue children, women, and the wounded. It was then when the pilot who was supposed to be flying out came to us and said, "I don't have permission from air traffic control, but if he could get out, then I can get in." So he did it, at his own risk and peril. Yes, he took the responsibility. Everyone aboard, and everyone rushed to the front of the plane. The first, the second, then the third plane all took off one by one. The pilot warned us that it wouldn't be a typical landing. "We have to land quickly," he explained, "so as not to get hit. So tighten up your seatbelts and we'll land in emergency position." "Don't be afraid," he said. "If you feel a thump or something like that, it's one big aircraft after all." So anyway, he's flying over the sea to land at Sukhum's Babushera airport. Just as we're about to land, that's what I was told later by people outside. We were inside and had no idea of how high above the ground we were. I was told we were 60 meters up when the plane fell. As it turned out, it fell because we were hit, though I didn't feel whether we were hit or not. All I knew was that the plane suddenly plummeted, and my heart moved upwards. That's how fast we fell. So, anyway, the plane plunged, and everything went dark. I got up, but could not see anything in the cabin. Absolutely nothing. You couldn't see a finger if you held it right up to your nose. There was a small porthole, with room to stick your head out, but not more. Too small to get out. We had no idea where the emergency exits were. And anyway, the cabin turned out to be full of smoke. So if I hadn't stuck my head out of the porthole, I would have suffocated, just like the others. They were, as though, apparently, fire makes the human body kind of curl and shrivel up.
Ну, в общем, он себе вот так в кругу себя делал, да.
They had first suffocated, and then the flames got them.
И потом уже огонь сделал свое дело. И вот в этом хаосе
So then, in that chaos, I thought I saw a tiny piece of sky and started to move towards it.
этого неба. И вот пошел к тому плачку. Ну, там уже
The plane was crashed open at the seam,
самолета. И, оказывается, я там
and I found the exit without going very far.
слышали,
Then we heard a young woman's voice. Hey guys, help me, I can't reach.
и вот дотянулся, говорит. И вот
So, together with someone who was already standing on top, we lifted her up and threw her outside. And then I followed her.
я пошел
When I climbed out, I started looking for the guy who helped me,
искать этого парня,
to haul him out as well,
его. Но уже
but I couldn't find him.
наша, видимо,
The smoke must have got him.
я выпрыгнул оттуда,
I jumped out,
перешли
and we crossed to the grass by the runway.
около полосы. И там
There were 15 or 16 people there, who had made it like I had.
и вылезли оттуда.
Help arrived. The airport too was full of people, children, also waiting for a flight.
Эти самые, и даже это как его пожарные
Even the fire service arrived and sprayed everything with foam.
пеном, да, пеном заливала. Но
But nobody could go inside the plane, because we all knew there was ammunition in there.
и вот эти ребята потом
So, the people who had driven over from the airport building led us out and away from the plane, put us in their vehicles and drove us to the hospital.
как раз, я не знаю,
I was completely exhausted. When we got up the next day,
поднялись,
once it was light, I looked out of the window and everything looked familiar, like some kind of deja vu.
вот это
I knew this place. I'd been here before.
когда спросил,
When I asked, I was told we were in Agudzera, where I'd been in summer camp all through my childhood.
красивейшего,
Beautiful place. It's a paradise. So beautiful you could lose your mind.
ну,
None of my friends made it. They buried them there
хоронили,
because their bodies could not be taken out. They needed the space to save the living.
вот сколько лет прошло,
Now, after so many years have passed,
и вот я когда встречаюсь,
when I meet with others who were also there,
принимали участие,
most of them were in it from the start to finish, and lost those dearest to them.
они все сами,
Nobody was left untouched.
все.
They all feel the same way.
Ну, вообще это так.
Actually, when it comes to politics, they always take advantage of things.
Эти, ну, у нас есть товар,
The biggest pacifist is a soldier
человек вообще.
who has experienced it all for himself.
И у всех нас
And all of us, even the generals. Of course, I don't mean the ones who sat it out on the sidelines and then jumped straight to the rank of general. We all feel the same now,
сейчас, что,
that we should have not started it.
ну, случилось,
Anyway, what's happened has happened. So let's also admit where we were wrong.
не они только виноваты.
They're not the only guilty ones. We're guilty too. It's never the case that one side is completely right.
И вот если
And there is this sentiment now
сейчас, ну,
that maybe both of us need to get used to that idea, that we need to come closer to each other. For example, we have very intensive meetings, and September 22nd is like our day of rebirth. That's how we see it, those of us who stayed alive.
всегда выходим на
We and the mothers of the deceased, we always visit the cemetery.
и у них они не
And those women never stopped. They created the commission and went over there to Abkhazia several times to meet with the Abkhazian mothers.
они встречались с абхазскими матерями. Это очень
It was a long preparation because our side was thinking about how we would be greeted.
знаете, вот как
and probably they also thought the same.
Наверное, с той стороны то же самое. Да?
Someone had killed your son.
Сына убили. Ну, это
God forbid anything like that happened to anyone.
потому что такое случится в жизни. И когда они
And so, when they first met,
вот когда эти материалы
the
рассказывали,
mothers were telling that the first meeting was very emotional.
обвиняли мы друг друга. Говорят,
First, they were blaming each other, and then they started crying together.
когда начали вместе плакать, начали. Говорит, надо людям друг другу.
People should come together.
Приходят между
We can forgive anyone,
всех. Ну,
so the people should forgive each other too.
без
It's impossible to do it without forgiveness.
мы никуда не уйдем.
We're not going anywhere, and they are not going anywhere as well. I understand that there is blood between us, but we have to move past it and forgive each other in a Christian way. That's my opinion.